snow happens. And it is still happening in the Midwest. Winter isn't quite ready to give up yet. There are spending bills for Congress to pass. The House seems to be prepping to take a farm bill to the public. The energy industry issued some warnings about rules and regs. And the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments move through the first round games.
Live from the final laps of the week via Farm Journal broadcast, this is AgriTalk. This morning, it's our Friday free-for-all with panelists Jim Wiesemeyer and Shaun Haney. Directly following the news, Jennifer Scheich from Farm Journal's Pork. I'm handsome newsman Davis Michaelsen. Now, welcome the host of AgriTalk, Jeff Flory.
All right, Davis. Hey, thank you so much, and welcome. Welcome to Friday morning's AgriTalk. You know what that is. That is the free-for-all. Jim Wiesemeyer standing by. Shaun Haney will be around here in a moment. And we've got a lot of ground that we need to cover. Good grief. When I take a look at the list of items that I would like to cover, hopefully we can keep this thing organized well enough and keep pushing through all the issues. But all the way from the appropriations bills, that's where we've got to start because it seems to be the most pressing issue, to the quarterly grain stocks and prospective plantings reports that we will get late next week on the 28th, on Thursday. So I want to do a little bit of preview and a little bit of prep on those things. And, and of course, I got to mention, Iowa State Cyclones with their win in the first round over SDSU.
Yeah.
That was a nice one. It was a good one. They could have played better.
I don't know. If you look at the final score, it looks to me like the Cyclones ran through the Jackrabbits like a tornado in a trailer park is what happened there.
Yeah.
I mean, let's forget could have done better. You beat them by like 20 points or something, right?
They were up 20 late in the game, won by 18, I think it was.
Okay.
But there's some room. They've played better. Let's put it that way. But there were times, there were short stretches in that game against South Dakota State that Iowa State looked as good as they've looked all year. No question about it.
Okay.
No question. If they could string all of those moments together, ooh, boy, that would make for a fun tournament the rest of the way. No question. Yeah. And now the Iowa State girls kick it off tonight. Got Maryland.
Okay. Maryland.
Yep.
All
yep.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody's going over to Stanford from Maryland and from Ames to play a game tonight. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it does or not. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really great. Really great.
Yeah?
Yeah. Everything's fine.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the news.
Well, the National Weather Service says back-to-back storm systems will continue to bring snow to the northern plains and upper Midwest over the next several days. Heavy snow will spread into eastern Montana late Saturday, then expand into the northern plains and upper Midwest by Sunday night, producing significant snowfall accumulations. Hazardous travel conditions are likely. Back-to-back storms, Chip.
Yeah. When everything is said and done, they're still saying that we've got the potential for one of the best moisture events that we've had in more than a year in northern Iowa. When everything's said and done, we could push 2 inches of moisture.
Well, Chip, experts told the House Ag Committee China remains the top global threat to U.S. agriculture despite billions in U.S. export sales there. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem says China wants to control the U.S. food supply. Noem had this to say.
They have decades ago started buying our fertilizer companies. Then I watched them buy up our chemical companies. I watched us as we sold citizenship to members of the Communist Party for investment into our processing systems. And now most of our processing facilities are owned by the Communist Party or Chinese government. Now they are coming for our land.
Well, there you go, Chip. Back to South Dakota for a word from Governor Kristi Noem. Strong words there.
Yeah, very much. And maybe I'm naive on some of these, and I could be. It very could be the case. But in many ways, what China was doing was trying to protect their own food supply by, laying down roots in the best food producing country in the world. So it's interesting give and take on this issue.
Yeah. Well, in other news, a multi-state coalition of biofuel and farm advocates asked the Treasury Department to swiftly resolve any questions standing in the way of scaling up U.S. production of sustainable aviation fuel. More specifically, they urged the administration to quickly adopt the U.S. Department of Energy's GREET model for calculating SAF tax credits under the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, we asked Jeff Cooper, CEO at the Renewable Fuels Association, about the timing of that yesterday. Didn't have anything specific, but that group sent that letter out and said, let's get this done.
The Biden administration introduced new regulations aimed at accelerating the transition to electric vehicles, with plans for a majority of new cars and light trucks to be electric or hybrid by 2032 now. However, several challenges threaten to hinder the ambitious plan. Car makers expected to introduce more affordable and high-performing EV models in the coming years, while efforts to standardize charging infrastructure and private investments in network expansion could improve accessibility.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a bit.
Hey, here's a piece of good news. On March 17, a tow with 12 barges moved through Lock and Dam 2 in Hastings, Minnesota, opening the upper Mississippi River to shipping after its cyclic winter shutdown. And finally, Mexico is cautioning a federal U.S. court about potential significant tensions between the two countries if a contentious Texas immigration law is allowed to take effect. Senate Bill 4, signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott, criminalizes illegal entry into Texas and grants state officials authority to order immigrants' deportation, a realm typically under federal jurisdiction. Chip.
Tensions are incredibly high at the border right now. There's, we will talk about it more as the show goes on. The free-for-all goes on. All right. Thank you, Davis.
Yep.
Let's bring in Jennifer Scheich, editor of Farm Journal's Pork. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning.
Okay. Yeah, you've got some perspective on a leadership group that I think is really cool in the pork industry. Tell us about it.
Well, in 2022, I was able to go be a part of the Pork Leadership Institute as one of their guests to talk about, working with media. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought, wow, this is a really sharp group of people. And they were very diverse and represented a lot of ages and backgrounds. And I've since just kind of followed this group because we kind of, became friends. I thought, well, this is a neat group of people to follow. And I ran into 4 of them at Ohio Pork Congress. And I was just overwhelmed as I sat there because these 4 have went on to do amazing things in the pork industry in the last 18 months. And so I sat down and have a story posted on Pork Business Today that just talks about some of the things that this group is doing. But I think what is so cool is I'm just reminded that, when one person rises, good leaders bring other people with them. And these 4 just keep challenging each other to be better.
Yeah. It sounds like these 4, they're taking advantage of the multiplier effect. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 × 2 equals, effort beyond what they could accomplish on their own.
Absolutely. And, I think as we look at the future of the industry, we need people who are able to bring others up with them to be leaders and to tackle some tough things. So, these have been my go-to sources to talk about Prop 12, to talk about succession on the farm. So many things we can glean from them.
Excellent. Excellent. Sometime I want to hear about this trip to Brazil, too, okay?
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Jennifer is just fresh back from Brazil. We'll learn more about that as time goes on. Learn about it now at www.porkbusiness.com.
AgriTalk is brought to you by United Animal Health, where their science allows you to maximize your genetic potential. Learn more at unitedanh.com.
We don't make the news, we render it. AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm your host, Chip Flory. We got the free-for-all going on this Friday morning. Let's start to bring in the team here. Pro Farmer Policy Analyst Jim Wiesemeyer. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Chip.
Is your bracket all busted to heck already?
Kentucky didn't help.
Is that, yeah. Kentucky, I don't think helped a lot of people. No, no doubt about it. All right. Real Agriculture, RealAg Radio, Shaun Haney. Haney, good to talk to you, buddy.
Hey, it's great to be here. What's crazy is there actually are people like in the ESPN bracket challenge that did have Oakland over Kentucky, but it's like those people that fill out like 30 brackets. I did 3.
Yeah.
And I had one of those had Kentucky winning the whole thing. So that one's torched.
Right.
But I got another one that's in the 98th percentile. I'm like 450,000th place, which is pretty good considering how many people fill out brackets. So
Well, yeah.
here's today goes well.
Yeah, there you go. I got to believe that you got Iowa State winning that one, right?
I do have Iowa State over Washington State in that one. I know that.
Okay.
So
all right.
I that one's got UConn winning the whole thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I know.
That one seems to be the easy choice.
I know, but maybe it's a smart choice, Chip. That does, it's a smart choice.
We'll see. We'll see if we'll see if UConn can even make it out of the first round. We'll find that out later today. All right, and of course, Davis Michaelsen is with us as well and ready to get rolling. Okay, Jim, I feel like we need to start with the appropriations bills again. Is this package going to pass before midnight?
Yeah, I'll be pretty quick. It's our version of March Madness here in town, but it's March Madness that you shouldn't watch or listen to. Eventually, it's going to get done, whether it's late tonight or sometime over the weekend in a mini shutdown. All you have to hear, Chip, is they're going to get it done. Then the Senate takes off for 2 weeks. That's why you're going to get the bill done.
Oh, jeez. Okay. But you know what you just said there, a mini shutdown. I can't believe that we're to this point again.
Yeah, because some of the both in the House and the Senate, but the House, some of the rebels and the other conservatives in the Republican Party are crying foul. They have some legitimacy in that they only have a few hours to read over 1,000-page bill, but it is what it is. I would say after this is over, they have 6 months, Chip, to do the next fiscal year bill. Do your work.
Yeah. And Jim, it seems like all we talk about when it comes to this Congress are the spending bills. It's not like they're taking on big issues like immigration.
No, not that many at all. And Mike Johnson, as the House Speaker, is doing what he has to do. He has to get a lot of Democratic votes to get it through on the House floor. And that's got some of his party very upset, but you wouldn't get it done, Chip, without them. That's called a compromise, between both parties.
When are they not upset? That's a better question.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree.
Speaker Johnson here is having to grow up fast, right? Remember, this is not something that's been in any sort of leadership position. Mm-hmm. And he is having to mature in this role, having to deal with all the kind of the shenanigans and the fracturing of the right side of the aisle. So I heard, I believe it was Chip Roy, I heard that was really, really upset with Speaker Johnson.
Yeah.
Which, it was some of the usual talking points, but it's going to be interesting to see if we do see that fringe group try to move on him. It seems like there's a lot of talk, but not a lot of action to try to avoid repeating the process what they did under McCarthy.
Yeah, Chip Roy is about as angry as an attorney general from New York City, if you know what I mean.
Well,
two peas in a pod.
That is a feral animal right there, Wiesemeyer. You better be careful dealing with that one. Good grief. And I mean, are Speaker Johnson's days numbered?
If they are, I think the Democrats will save him because they're working with him. So I think that the conservatives are upset now that they're not being listened to as much anymore. They're not being afraid. So that's how you get things done.
Well, and you got to wonder too, don't they bide their time till post? Well, yeah, I was going to say bide their time to post-election betting on Trump winning the fall election and then dealing with it with Johnson afterwards.
What that you change your House rules for the new Congress, that you're not at the mercy of a few votes.
Yeah,
that will happen if the Republicans retain control of the House, and that's an if.
Yeah. I don't know how we change them significantly enough to make a difference, Jim, the rules of the House.
Well, you don't put certain members from the rebels onto the rules committee. That's one.
Well,
So
and
you get
three
rules
positions.
through. Yeah, you can get rules through, and that's big in the House because we've seen that. That'll change. So
Right,
I
okay.
just think that it'll get more. It won't be normal, but still, it'll be that it can actually function because it's a dysfunctional house right now.
But
Yeah.
it all depends on how big that majority. Like, the wider that majority, the easier it is to change those rules. Is it not?
Yes, you'll have about the same rate. They won't have much give, but you'll still change that rules committee. That's the big one as far as I'm concerned to get things done.
Okay. So let's assume that you're right. By the time we get to Monday morning, one way or another, the appropriations, the spending bills for the Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, Labor, Health and Human Services, Education, State, and the legislative branch will be passed. The government will be continuing to work. Does that clear some time to get a farm bill out of the House?
It helps absolutely. We're starting to get some movement. I think that G.T. Thompson, House Ag Chair, will release a chairman's mark between Easter and Memorial Day. You can, there's your timeline, and all I'm hearing now is it will be creative. They're going to include language that shows 40 to 50 billion additional dollars above and beyond the 1.51 trillion dollar 10-year baseline. They're saying they won't rob Peter to pay Paul to get that extra funding. So that means they're going to have to be very creative. They'll use some CCC funding, some food stamp language changes. But other than that, what can they get for the 40 to 50 billion, Chip? An increase in reference prices, not a static percent for all commodities. It'll be variable. Improvements to crop insurance, increases in trade promotion, the MAP and the FMD program backloaded because of the current RAP program, and some biosecurity. They're going to throw some chunk of change at biosecurity. So that, that's of note too. And we'll see what happens relative to how the Democrats react, because if you touch $1 in food stamps, they're not going to vote for it.
Well, yeah, when you mention changing the language on the nutrition bill at all, that's a red flag.
Yeah, we'll see what they can give them as a result of that. So I'm not going to cast it totally, but I think still most people, 85% of the Farm Bill watchers in this town are signaling it won't be done this year. We'll see. I still want to see the text of the bill first before putting it in the grave.
Well, I don't know the details of it, but who's going to argue against increased funding going to things like biosecurity?
True.
That just seems like something that everybody can agree on, which is good when we don't seem to agree on much.
Yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, I know what you're saying, Haney. I know what you're saying, but at the same time, with the focus of some on let's find any way that we can to cut spending, they're going to look at that very closely. And Jim, you mentioned some of the trade development, the market development efforts that are out there, and even RAP, USDA's newest trade development. And am I describing that accurately? Trade development on RAP? Yeah.
Trade promotion. Yeah.
Trade promotion. They're spending a bunch of money on that, aren't they?
They are, and they're front loading it. So we're going to see it's been oversubscribed, actually, Chip, which tells you there's the momentum there. But we have a long ways to go to get our U.S. trade policy back in the right thrust for U.S. agriculture. Both Democrats and Republicans have turned protectionist.
Yeah, okay, let's talk a little bit more about ag trade when we come back. I want to talk about the 45Z credits, the GREEP model. When are we going to get the final adjustments there? Border tensions, there's still a lot of ground for us to cover on the free-for-all here on AgriTalk.
Time for Markets Now with the experts from Pro Farmer.
And joining us now in Brian Grady's absence, Chip Flory. Chip, awful lot of red on the screen here. Crude oil down, the stock market down, but let's look at the soybean complex. Yep. Yikes, double-digit losses in the beans.
Yeah, giving back a lot of the gains that we had earlier in the week. November beans, I think, are trading almost steady on the week now. It's been that kind of trade in the soy complex. We've got some pressure on soybean meal and soybean oil as well. There has been concern over too much rain in Argentina, maybe causing some quality issues on that Argentine bean crop. I think here at the end of the week, the market is saying, "Listen, we've been through that kind of talk before. Let's not be too concerned about it." The heavy pressure on the soy complex, putting spillover pressure onto the corn market, and then the wheat market is trying to hold on to gains. We'll see if they can do that through the close of the bell. But hard red winter wheat futures trying to lead the way to the upside there.
Fat cattle futures want nothing to do with it. Neither do feeders.
Right. We've got the cattle on feed report coming this afternoon. That cattle on feed report, there are times where it gains importance and it holds a higher level of importance for 6 months at a time. We're probably in month 4 of a 6-month period where that cattle on feed report is going to be very important to the short-term trends in live cattle and feeder cattle futures. So some liquidation, some position evening going into the reports, and then over in the hog trade, not a lot of action really, some moderate movement, mostly to the downside.
That's our own Chip Flory on Markets Now. Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Farm Journal Broadcasting, affiliate stations, or sponsors. The best talkers in ag, including you. Join the conversation on AgriTalk. Call us at 855-4-TALK-AG.
All right, welcome back to the free-for-all. Jim Wiesemeyer, Shaun Haney, Davis Michaelsen, me. Go ahead, Wiesemeyer. Let's hear the breaking news.
Breaking news. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican rebel from Georgia, just filed a motion to vacate the Speaker's chair. Now, that puts Mike Johnson's short speakership in jeopardy. Greene and the other hardline conservatives are very upset about that $1.2 trillion spending bill. You'll recall Chip Johnson just took office in October. So here we go again. But again, breaking news. I'd have to see. Now we're going to see. Will the Democrats say enough of this stuff? We're going to come out and support the speaker. So to give a direct shot at the conservatives, we'll see.
Right.
And if he is saved by the Democrats, does that not really seal the deal of his fate with certain people in the Republican Party? Like that won't go over well at all either. Like he'll live to fight another day, but his brand inside that party, although he is, very much fits the mold of the social conservative and everything that many people want in that position, his goose will be cooked long term.
But again, the signal that if they continue to vote no, what they're saying is they wanted to shut down the government, and they didn't shut it down. So we're going to see how many times can they go through. And again, this will not be very good news on November 5 elections for Republicans in the House if they do that.
Right. I was just going to say, what are they hoping to gain from a government shutdown? It could just be that I don't understand that the positives that they think might come out of it.
They think that they can extract things to get it, but Chip, they don't know how to do math, apparently. You have to have the number of votes, and you need Democrats to get something through. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Well, I think what they're trying to gain, Chip, is that just solidifying the message that should be spending the money. Like, don't spend it on. It's like a fiscal hawk out of control. And so it's the message like you're just trying to stop spending because you we have to balance the budget, government spending too much. And the nuance is not important. It's more of that, I think, that key message. We're stopping spending. This is crazy.
Right. 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 And hey, that's an important message. There is no question about it. But there are better actions to advance that message than shutting down the government. And evidently pursuing those legislative efforts to reduce spending and send that message that we need to find a way to cut our spending, it's just not attractive. It's right, too hard.
But if they feel they're not being heard, drastic times require drastic measures. And so they feel that the current situation requires this kind of action in order to get the message through to people. That's how I sort of read through the tea leaves.
I hear you, and I understand it. I also understand that arsonists like to stand around and watch the fire burn too.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah. So it's boy, there's lots of different angles to come at this one from. There's no doubt about that. So take us to the border tensions then, Jim, because I've seen the video of the migrants that are rushing the fence, and this looks to be escalating quickly on the level of violence that is going to be taking place down there at the border.
Yeah, a true invasion. An ugly invasion now. Yeah, it's not a peaceful invasion when they kind of go willingly across the border. But now they're cutting and they're disrupting and things like that. So in Mexico, as we said in the news portion of saying, wait a minute, they don't like some of this Texas bill either. So it's coming to a head now, Chip. It's coming to a head now. So we'll see on a pending Supreme Court ruling.
Do you see where Mexico is? They're providing money or incentives for people that are intending to cross the border to go back to Guatemala. Migrants will be eligible for $110 per month for half a year and assistance finding employment through Mexican companies it's Venezuela.
Okay.
So they're trying to provide 6 months of monthly payments to and help try to find jobs back to if you go back home. Yeah.
Interesting. Boy, there's a million thoughts going through my mind on how that can. Well, I don't know if they all backfire, but there's lots of potential for a plan like that to backfire, right? And why not, instead of doing that, why not take the money and invest in some manufacturing? Provide some opportunities inside of those countries. And I know with Venezuela, good gosh, you can't make that happen. But it's just I don't know, Jim. There's a lot of big answers that we are looking for on this immigration issue, and it's hard to identify and anything that will get consensus.
The reason is because it's too tied up into politics right now. And then it's not a real policy decision at this particular time. So
they're not
going to have to wait until
solutions.
After the election. They're not. No, I agree. They're not.
Boy, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's no
it's
good.
Reality, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, how it's hard to argue differently.
Yeah. Yep.
Really.
Here's another one that is reality, Jim. The U.S. ag trade deficit is widening. We had Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa on the show yesterday afternoon. She wasn't very nice when she was talking about the efforts of the U.S. Trade Rep's office and the Biden administration in doing anything to grow ag exports.
Yeah, because of that, and she says, Catherine Tai, our U.S. trade rep, says to the ag groups, yeah, we hear you, but we're focusing on other areas that'll have more impact, manufacturing and other sectors. And Secretary Vilsack repeatedly now is throwing the stones back to ag groups of saying, hey, we don't have trade promotion authority. You didn't ink it through. But what he doesn't say is usually an administration request fast track trade negotiating authority. That's what trade promotion authority is, where you up and down vote, because they have no trade agreements that need approval, Chip, because they know the atmosphere in Congress, both political parties, you probably couldn't pass a new trade agreement.
Right.
So where is the current ag trade deficit relative to the past?
Oh, ag trade deficit is 30 billion. We used to have a surplus almost every year. Now, Vilsack, yes, Vilsack handles that by saying, well, a stronger dollar, as if we've never had a stronger dollar, and a few commodities are causing that, horticulture and sugar. But I just that doesn't pass the reality test.
Okay, so what is happening then? What is the reality? What fixes it? Like I saw
the reality is that Brazil has taken the corn and bean market
and cotton.
So what does the U.S. need to do to be more competitive in those commodities?
Move to domestic utilization. That's the signal that they're given. And that's why, which bridges us into the biofuels and sustainable aviation fuel and the need to get a GREET model and these 45Z tax incentives that can be used. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is the infrastructure ready for that?
Couple of conversations this week on the PM hour of AgriTalk have turned to what if the development of renewable diesel, of sustainable aviation fuel, of the biofuel future that a lot of people see and anticipate is going to be supportive for the grain markets. What if that doesn't happen? Are we going to have to go back and get some of the export market back? Do you know how painful that would be?
Yeah, that means low prices.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a long period of really difficult conditions in agriculture across the industries to try to get that demand back. So at this point, we're all in. The U.S. is all in on developing the sustainable aviation fuel market, the maritime sustainable fuel market, go right on down the list. And time will tell if the right decisions were made on that, but they're pushing hard for it right now. No question about it. And just one last thing, the farmer forum that we had on Wednesday with Laura and Karen, a produce producer there in New York, talking about the mandated wages, mandated housing, mandated transportation for the workers to harvest the berries and the cherry tomatoes and that type of produce. It is the regulations are so expensive that it's cheaper to import than it is to grow them here. We're upside down in too many sectors. We'll be back with more of the Free for All next.
The truth is hard to come by these days, unless you listen to AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. We've got the Free for All going. Pro Farmer Policy Analyst Jim Wiesemeyer, Real Agriculture, Real Ag Radio's Shaun Haney, Davis Michaelsen, and me, your host, Chip Flory. Okay. Wiesemeyer, EPA came with the tailpipe emissions final rule again. They're pushing the EVs. It feels like it doesn't matter what is happening in the automobile market, what is happening in the manufacturing. It It doesn't matter. They're going to continue to push and push and push on the EVs.
Yeah, and they're saying it's not a ban. It is a ban.
Oh, it
when you go
is.
through, yes, it is a mandate by a certain percentage. And to get there, it would have major implications. I think will indeed be challenged in the courts, and I don't think EPA is going to win this one, Chip. Eventually, it's going to take a while.
Okay, so that was one of the things that I asked Jeff Cooper about is this, the final rule? Is that it? Is there any way that we can appeal this? And he said, absolutely. It may be the final rule, but it's not the final word. It
Yes.
will be challenged in court. And, I mean, the listeners have heard me say this a million times. But there are ways to advance for the administration to advance the tailpipe emissions towards their goals right now with the fuels that are available to them, and they just turn a blind eye to it on most cases. It gives me real concern about what is going to happen with the final adjustments on the GREET model, Jim.
Yeah, well, even back to the EPA real briefly, the Wall Street Journal has an excellent approach on their commentary item on this that's headlined, "They're coming after your trucks." And you get at the majority of people who buy F-150s or whatever, that gets their attention. So I think this is going to be, you watch Trump pick up on this as a big issue throughout the campaign.
Well, hey, try being a car manufacturer right now, trying to steer through this hot mess. You are looking at your production timelines. You're looking at your capital investment and where capital flows in terms of product lines. You've got the political risks, like you just said, Jim, of the fall election. You've got what the market's telling you versus what the government's telling you. I don't know how you make sense of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Car dealerships, they rely heavily on servicing vehicles.
Yeah.
And EVs, you don't have to service as much. So, and then the workers in these plants, they know that this is a negative issue for the labor union, despite what they may support, Biden for, at least some of the unions.
But on the car dealership side too, what also happens to the car dealership, and this is what's been happening when you talk to those people, is these EVs being pushed down their throat, even though they can't sell them.
Right.
I think it was Buick, right, where they lost half of their dealerships because the dealerships weren't prepared to commit the investment in their own dealerships to be able to have the EVs, and if you weren't going to sell EVs, you couldn't sell the regular Buicks either. I think it was Buick that did that. So yeah, this is a real conundrum. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
you're paying more for a gas-powered car because of the losses that the dealerships are having to cough up for EVs.
Yeah. So there's
That's
the
clear.
cost. Yeah.
There's the cost side.
They're
narrowing. The cost differential is narrowing.
Artificially.
Well, yes, artificially.
The liquid fuel powered vehicle is making up, as you just said, making up for the losses on the lower cost of the EVs. So it's one of the strangest combinations that I can remember. What I understand now is that EV buyers are showing remorse when they get home and realize exactly what they need to do to put a charging station in their garage.
Well, I went through that in my purchase thing where at least Hyundai would have really subsidized you about 80%, Chip.
Yeah.
In that.
It's not that much anymore. Well, how long ago was that, Jim?
September. And I was at the beginning of the downturn.
Last year?
Last year. I could feel the momentum drift south for the EVs when I was looking. And because they were dropping almost daily, the price for the EVs.
Yeah.
So on this same biofuel, like this whole discussion, I got really concerned reading Jim's update, and I think it was a biofuel expert, I don't know who the person was, said, because SAF is not an obligated fuel, SAF feels a lot like cellulosic.
Yeah.
In the first 5 years of the RFS.
That made me really nervous. It really did. And it reminded me that Southwest Airlines getting involved in production of sustainable aviation fuel, and they're going the cellulosic route.
Yeah. He said it could be a unicorn fuel.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, what does Southwest know about making alcohol out of cellulosic materials that Jeff Broyne has missed at Poet for the last 20 years, 30 years. Boy, this is, you got to wonder if all the major players understand exactly what they're getting into. Wow. Holy smokes, that went by in a hurry, you guys. Jim, when are we going to get any word on the final GREET adjustments?
We're beginning week 3, Chip. Week's not much. Bill sack, so we'll see. The House passed the bill, by the way.
The House what?
The House passed the bill. At least that's what I saw on my screen.
Okay. All right. Very good, you guys. Hey, great job today. There's a lot of really complicated issues that we're trying to deal with right now, trying to gain a better understanding, including, the brackets and trying to maneuver those through as well. Good luck, you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Sure.
Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer, Shaun Haney, Real Agriculture. All right, come back this afternoon. We're going to have a conversation with Jamie Kawaki from Paragon Investments here on AgriTalk.